Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking on a genuinely massive, maybe even a little intimidating topic, but we're going to break it down into a super practical blueprint. We are taking the exact findings from the longest running study on happiness ever done and translating them into an architectural blueprint for your very own life. If you've ever wondered how to intentionally design a life of real, genuine well-being, well, you are in exactly the right place.
So let's jump right in by confronting the ultimate human pursuit. What actually makes us happy, right? For centuries, this has kind of been left to the philosophers or those deep late-night conversations. We constantly chased after all these things we think are going to bring us joy, status, big achievements, material stuff, and then we end up frustrated when that expected happiness just sort of fades away. But what if we didn't actually have to guess anymore? What if we could look at what hardcore science says actually brings us joy? Well, instead of relying on random anecdotes or the latest self-help trend, we're going to rely exclusively on the definitive, data-backed guide to building a great life. And the insights we're unpacking today, they are drawn directly from the longest-running study on happiness ever conducted. Researchers literally spent decades tracking people across their entire lifespans, carefully observing what factors truly correlated with a flourishing life. And by looking at this incredible data set, we can extract 5 core pillars of well-being. Step 1, building the foundation. Let's look at how this builds right from the ground up. Think of your life as a house. Before you can even think about putting up walls or painting the rooms or adding some shiny new roof, you absolutely must pour a concrete foundation. You just cannot construct a solid life without this basic physical baseline. And that consists of 2 simple, deeply interconnected things: daily exercise and eating well. Now, according to the study, exercise isn't just about, looking good. It literally keeps both the body and the mind healthy. It clears out that mental fog and primes your biology for joy. Paired with eating well, these 2 habits form the unglamorous but utterly essential concrete slab of your life. Sorry, there's just no cheat code here. If you want to be happy, you got to take care of the biological vessel you're living in. Step 2, the core structure. Now that our foundation is poured, it's time to put up the load-bearing walls. If that foundation keeps us physically grounded, these walls are the psychological and emotional shelter we desperately need to weather the inevitable storms of life. And according to the data, the absolute strongest material you can possibly use for these walls is meaningful relationships. Now, what's truly mind-blowing here is that a good partner isn't just about companionship or, having someone to split a pizza with. The data shows that good, meaningful relationships, especially spousal ones, literally provide neurological armor for your brain. Yeah, you heard that right. They make people profoundly happier, for sure, but they actually go as far as protecting the brain from memory loss and dementia. Your relationships are literally a biological shield. And that brilliantly illustrates this incredible biological chain reaction that kicks off when you prioritize connection. Think about how the sequence works. First, meaningful relationships stave off loneliness. Second, by not being isolated, you're way better equipped to regulate your stress and your emotions. And third, because your stress is properly regulated, you actually physically decrease your risk of severe health events like heart disease and stroke. The emotional shelter of your life's blueprint directly reinforces your physical foundation. It's just a phenomenal, self-sustaining loop of well-being. But right alongside those relationships, there is another, absolutely essential structural wall required to keep your mental house standing strong. Look, you cannot spend the vast majority of your waking hours doing something you absolutely despise and expect to be happy. It just doesn't work. The study very clearly highlights meaningful work as a core component of a flourishing life. You need to find profound purpose in your daily occupation. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be out there saving the world every single day, right? But you do need to feel like your contributions actually matter and that they align with your core values. Step 3, the misunderstood add-on. We've finally reached the roof and the fancy amenities, which brings us to the heavily debated topic of money. Society is constantly telling us that money is the absolute foundation of happiness. But the longest-running study on happiness positions it very, very differently. Let's look really closely at what the data actually reveals about wealth. If your baseline is deeply unhappy, meaning, your foundation is cracked and your load-bearing walls are crumbling, more money doesn't make you happier. The least happy people don't magically find joy simply by acquiring more wealth. However, if your baseline is happy, if you've established those health habits, cultivated those deep relationships, and found your meaningful work, well, then more money does indeed increase your happiness. See, money is simply a multiplier. It cannot cure deep unhappiness, but it absolutely amplifies the joy of people who have already built a solid foundation.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look really closely at your own life's architecture. We've laid out the 5 pillars derived from decades of rigorous research: exercise, eating well, meaningful relationships, meaningful work, and having the proper perspective on money. Honestly ask yourself right now, which of these areas have you been neglecting? Are you out there chasing the multiplier of money while your physical foundation is literally crumbling beneath you? Or maybe you're neglecting your load-bearing relationships for the sake of your work. Take a hard, honest look at your blueprint. Which part of your life needs the most construction today?